Chapter 43 Lancelot. Dear Al, how's my goat girl doing? I gather you had a visitor. He's not very eloquent right now. You'll have to fill me in on what happened. But he seems to reckon I need to drive down there and either bring you home or realign Christina's boyfriend's teeth. What happened? Are you alright? You haven't said anything about it, so I rather assume Johnny took his big brother role a bit too seriously. From what I remember, the South African seems to be a guy with a pretty big ego. I couldn't imagine him and Johnny being in the same room without something breaking out. Let me know when you get leave. I'll find a way to put in a day's leave too and come fetch you. It'll be good to have you close by for a bit. All my love, Danny. The year was rushing toward its end. It was cold. In little over a month it would be Christmas. Janice wanted her to come stay for the holidays. The baby was due and she was afraid, although Tim was working more civilized hours with the passing of the constant daylight attacks. The Blitz pressed heavily on everyone's mind. It was now a very strenuous war on the civilian population. November was a dreary month filled with cold and bad news. She had been speaking to the dour Pete, who gradually warmed up and started teaching her how to select breeding stock. A plan was forming in her mind. "Mr. Hill, what if I worked off 5 young nannies and you helped me pick out a young quality billy that will suit their bloodlines? I was wondering if we could maybe buy him from a different stud and you'd have the use of him as well. I'd like to keep my bunch here and sort of pay livery for them, while you teach me to do things the right way." Pete was excited as much as the old man could be. He was a strange fellow, but he did love his goats. They took several trips to studs and she ended up buying a billy that cost her nearly everything she had put away, but he came from showing lines that had done very well before the war had put an end to shows and gatherings. His dam was an excellent milk producer, and she liked the proud way he stood. Pete fuzzed over him. He was called Lancelot, and he was halter and chain trained, which made his handling easier. Pete coached her on how to set him up and show him off. He looked far into the distance. One day this will all be over, and there will be shows again. The son is a champ. You just keep working on it. You might not get to show him, but if you breed him to these nannies, you're bound to get ones that'll do you proud in the ring one day. Christina had bought a camera and took some pictures of Eleanor setting up Lancelot. She sent one to Danny and one to her parents. Christina hadn't mentioned Albert since the night at the Billy Goat. Then, the night of the first snow, Christina woke her. "Al, I need to talk to somebody. I'm lonely something fierce tonight, and I've been wanting to ask you about what happened the other night." She sat up slowly, groggily. "Let's go make some tea then. I'll go put the kettle on since I woke you up to make you listen to my woes." She came back with 2 mugs. Eleanor lit a candle. It was warm in the loft. The hearth was right below them. The heat from the chimney and the fire below them kept them cozy for most of the night. "I broke up with Albert that night we went to the Billy Goat, Al. What your cousin said there made me think. I don't think I deserved to be ignored. Do you think he likes you?" "Who? Albert or Johnny?" "Albert. Actually, Johnny too. Do you think he likes you?" "Christina, Albert has been the last thing on my mind. I don't know what to tell you, but he frightened me a little. I don't want to say anything that'll hurt you, though. I want to hear. I think I really liked him and I need to shake it off. I've never been this sad over a man. Every time I saw him, there was at least one moment where he looked at me in a way that made my hair stand up. Yet I don't know why. It was like he looked through me. It made me feel bare and threatened. I have no rhyme or reason for it, Christina. He was just very intense and he wouldn't look away. I was always the one to break eye contact, and it scared me." She paused. There's good scared and bad scared. The first time I looked in Danny's eyes, it was good scared, nervous, yet it was like coming home. I knew he was for me. Albert is something else. He frightens me, and yet I don't think he's a bad guy. But I don't think he put you first at all. He wasn't good for you. He did ignore you most of the time. I don't know what he wanted with you, but it wasn't you for the sake of you, and that's not right. And Johnny? Johnny is a strange soul, Stina. He sat and talked with me half the night when he arrived here. And if I learned something about him that night, it's that he needs to love someone and he consistently picks wrong. I also learned that he tried to fall in love with me years ago and he couldn't. I do know that he loves me in a whole different way. Do you like him? I might. No one has ever told me before that I deserve to be the center of a room. I wondered if... I don't think right now. He just had a terrible breakup and I think he might need some time. I don't know, Stina. I'm no expert on the human condition. I think you're right. And I've already learned I can't compete with you. How compete with me? Eleanor was aghast. I think Albert wanted to hang around me so he could get to see you. And I think eventually any woman in Johnny's life will get measured against you. Oh, Christina, you are one of the prettiest, bubbliest, genuinely nicest people I've ever met. You're a stunning girl. Yet, you're engaged. Your cousin will ring next for you, and my attempt at a boyfriend only had eyes for you. Johnny's more like my brother, and it's not like that. Believe me, I think you're completely wrong about Johnny. Albert, you can just write off as a shithead. You'll get your Danny, someone who sees you for who you are. This is why people like you so much. You can convince them with a few words and a look that they really are who they'd like to be. She shook her head. Christina, thank you for speaking the truth. I don't know why I liked him so much. I don't. I'll get over it, and you're right. I will find someone who loves me enough to wife me, and I'll have 7 children and 3 chins and be outrageously happy.